Welcome to No Such Thing as Normal podcast with Natalie Hayes and Jess McKeown.
This is a casual podcast where we talk about all the things you're not supposed to talk about in order to help you normalize your real life, because really we're all just a bunch of weirdos having a completely human experience in a society that asks us to pretend like we're not.
And I'm your host, Jess, a gifted spirit baby medium who facilitates deep soul healing by channeling divine messages.
And I'm your other host, Natalie, an intuitive mentor and transformative healer.
Be sure to subscribe where you listen to podcasts, watch our 100% unedited episodes on YouTube, and you can also follow us on Instagram at McJaguar and at IntuitivelyNatalie for more weirdo and woo-woo content.
Yes, and if you like this episode, please be sure to rate and review it and share it on social media and tag us so that more people can unleash their weird with you.
Do all the things, people.
Do all the things. I love it. I feel like so many
like
people are finding us now, and I love that. Thanks for sharing us with your friends and your family.
I think the best compliment I've received is that you feel like you're sitting here chatting with us, and that is exactly what we want. And I'm just going to plug one more time that we're going to do a live episode, TBD, be excited, where we invite people on and you can just come and chat with us and bring your tea.
Have your hair wet. It looks like I'm lactating.
Have your hair wet. Yes, I'm trying out a new mousse. So we'll see how these curls go today. I might end up looking like Krusty the Clown. We don't know.
I'm excited. You'll see it first on YouTube.
Natalie's lactating. Hear her hair. That's so true, though.
That's what I feel like. I mean, when I say, oh, this is a casual podcast, like this is a casual podcast. Like I, most of the time am in jammies.
I am in jammies.
Yeah. Like I'm having my morning tea. This is
there is no bra on. That's why then my screen is tilted like this, children.
Super cash. We love it when you're super cash.
Because it is just a relaxed state to talk about this kind of stuff, right? I think this is important stuff, and we don't need to be too formal as we talk about the deep, dark, and scary, and the fun, exciting. And today we're kind of going into the darker stuff a little bit again.
Yeah,
into the harder stuff.
Bridging off last week, I think. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, I would recommend listening to that first, because we're going to be talking about like tough family relationships since the holidays are coming up, and shadow work, is really done well in families.
Yeah. And I mean, not to say that all family relationships are tough, but I bet you everybody's got something.
Yeah. Some kind
Please
of
tell me you do.
Some kind of like a toxic, touchy relationship.
I mean, that's what families are for.
It is like you pick them coming in for what they can teach you. Like your family is best suited for the lessons that you came here to learn when you were a soul.
Yeah. And, sometimes you might question that.
Yeah.
And be like, I don't know that I picked these parents, and I don't know that I picked these siblings, but there is something to having people grow up with you and be in your family that is just very much a part of your healing journey. I don't have any siblings because I was like, nope.
I want to play that game.
I don't need any extra lessons from them.
Siblings?
I have enough. My parents. Yes. I was like, not, but it's funny because when I was younger, I was like, I really want siblings. Like I was so jealous and envious of people having sisters and brothers. And now that I'm older, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good.
I'm all
kind of
set.
sounds like they're just another adult in your life causing drama.
But your husband has a lot of siblings. Yeah.
Oh my God. He has a ton of siblings. He is one of 5. And so we when we go to restaurants with the whole family, we take up huge amounts of tables. And my mom's family is really big. She's one of 4. And all her siblings have at least 3 or 4 kids, except for her, just me. So when we get together, that's my Australian family. That's also really big and boisterous. So I kind of love it because as an only child, Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving was always a big holiday for us, but sometimes it'd just be smaller, me, my mom, and my dad. So to be around big groups of people is a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
And also just crazy to watch the dynamics.
Especially when you don't grow up in it, you have a better bird's eye view of it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I think the first couple of holidays, I just kind of like sat back and watched and observed and took it all in. And now I feel like I have a good flow, you know, in my husband's family. But yeah, what I didn't know was that because my husband is the oldest, I was kind of like looked up to as the oldest also.
Oh.
And so I was up here freewheeling, doing only child energy. And I kind of got this like feedback that I was like, oh, I don't know what it's like to be the oldest. You know, I don't know what it's like to have a kingdom of siblings. What are you? Are you the oldest?
I'm the middle.
You're the middle.
Oh yeah, those middle child vibes. Here for that.
You're here to redefine the middle child.
No, I feel like I pretty accurately fit the stereotype.
And okay, help me understand that. Like, did that play a big role in your family, like your birth order?
There's so much I feel like that comes with birth order, right? There's so much energy, like you picking your birth order. And I can only obviously speak to the middle child birth order. I think people like me pick to be a middle child because like the stigma is that they're forgotten. And I think I wanted that like alone time. Like I wanted to be left alone.
Yeah.
And then of course my own family's like personal generational trauma. I'm sandwiched between two boys. And boys are treated differently in my lineage than girls. So the boys needed more coddling. So I came right in the middle and, you know, was nice and forgotten.
Extra alone time.
Extra alone time.
That's the perfect spot for me.
But
and
like,
why do you think you want that?
I think it really fits me.
But why do you like not being seen so much or kind of having that under the radar in a family setting? Why do you think you chose that? Or do you think it was just more to like help you after family life?
I think by and large, I'm pretty independent. And I think that really just supported my independence to have that sort of, I'm not going to say negligence. I'm going to say I was given a lot of autonomy with myself and my playtime. Like my mom said that she would try to put me in timeout and I would play with my fingers. Like I could not be punished.
Oh my God, I love that. You cannot punish me.
I really can't be punished because I'll just enjoy it because I like to be by myself. Punish me, put me in a group setting. But
that's why I was so bad as a kid. I was just like fucking alone time. I've heard a lot from spirit babies about birth order.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. So I guess the biggest thing I want to say is like, there's no like set rules up there, just like there's no set rules down here. So that's gonna be like the first thing is like, things don't work that differently. It's just different forms of the energy. So sometimes a baby will be like, hey, our little brother has been trying to come in and he's miscarried a couple of times. And we're going to let him go back in again and go back in again. And like, so even though there's other kids in line to kind of come in, they don't like let him like skip his chance. Right. Then there's babies that are like, I am absolutely going to be the first. I am absolutely the oldest. I want to be the oldest. I want to be the oldest girl. I don't want an older brother. Like, and that's how they talk to me. Right. And I'm like, okay.
Sis.
And so sometimes if a parent is having a lot of miscarriages, I'm like, wow, she really wants a female body. She is adamant on that. And, you know, I think in this world, as a lot of that is changing, people coming in, babies coming in, still want to be in a female body or a male body for various reasons, for various other reasons, right? So, you know, sometimes even they just say like, well, I also want to experience motherhood and pregnancy this lifetime. So I want a body that has that, right? So less about being a woman, being a man, that kind of stuff. But sometimes they also want to do like generational changes and stuff. So it's very interesting to hear like their reasons for that. And that has always fascinated me. And then other babies will be like, oh yeah, it's whoever's next. And this is what we want. And this is the timing. But we like, you know, so everybody I talk to is different. Some people are adamant. Some people are flexible. Some people are, you know, more forgiving and understanding. And that was like really wild to me because the other thing that I guess I feel around that is that sometimes that is really important, but sometimes other things are more important.
Oh yeah.
I'd rather be a Cancerian than be firstborn. I'm willing to like negotiate that. So they are negotiating and changing their charts and their makeups as these things happen, which I think is just so wild.
That is so fascinating. I love that they I feel like it's been such a, you could say mind fuck, or you could say perspective shift.
Same difference.
That like we chose to come in at this time in this body. Like I'm a Gemini sun, I'm a Sag rising. Like I picked the perfect time to come in. Like it's also divinely orchestrated. And I feel like adopting that mindset shift can really help you feel how unique and special and like on purpose it is that you're here.
Yeah. Like if you haven't had your chart read, find a person that reads charts. I know Natalie, you read charts, right?
I do read charts. If you do more than one session with me, I'll read your chart.
Yeah. Like it's so worth it to get it read, because it really is like, I like this word of like blueprint. It really is sort of like what you planned long ago. And a lot of things might have shifted, but they really do support you. And I think it's helpful to kind of look at your parents' charts. Like, even though I'm like iffy on the pattern app, more on that later, but you can put in like parents and friends and stuff. We should put each other in if you're in that. I'm curious.
I'm in it. We should add each other. Yeah.
Be friends. But I put my dad in there and did our charts as friends, and you get to see stuff.
You get to run your bond.
Exactly. And like the lessons to learn and the karma. Yeah. So that's really, really kind of cool to like know your parents' signs and everything too, and your siblings, and like kind of like who you're working with in your family, right?
When I read, after I learned how to read charts, when I read my mom's chart and like my dad's chart, like it gave me such a deeper awareness, and I would say like more compassion and more empathy for who they are as people, rather than who I was set up to expect them to be.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that understanding of my parents' signs and their personality behaviors and their own conditioning and karma, like it helped me so much in my relationship with them, because it took away these expectations that were unrealistic, that like were societally conditioned for me to expect from a parent. But their karma, their energy, their astrology signs was perfect for me to come into.
I love that. I love how you're just okay with everything. It's like you know, like you create your own reality. Like when your reality is awesome, you're like, I created this. And like when it's shit, you're like, I did not create this.
This is not mine.
Life is happening to me.
I don't claim it.
I am a victim. Yeah, exactly. But when you do realize that, it is really helpful for that shift. And I think in addition to like knowing your parents' charts, which is kind of cool, just be like, say like, so mom, what time were you born?
Casual.
Casual. Where was the moon? Right. It's also, there's this book, I guess he's a psychic medium. Yeah, he's a psychic medium. His name is Ainsley McLeod. And I think his book is called like the old souls book, or the old soul, something like that. But he talks about like these different levels of souls. And like a lot of people that he sees and works with are like old souls. So they've been here for like a long time, right? They've incarnated many, many times, and they just approach life differently. And then, you know, people who are like soul level 1, you know, they like to be born in like really small towns and like these kind of families, and even into religion, right? And so they want to have all these structures. And then, you know, they might be in a level 1 for a couple of years and then move to 2, right? And so once I kind of saw this pattern of like, and he kind of described like certain people, like he said, like George Bush was like a level 5 when he did the whole like Iraq war, and people in level 5 are like this, like, you know, like patriotism and this kind of stuff, but it like, you don't really see like the downsides of that, right? Like he couldn't see that yet as an like that level of a soul. I bet if he comes back in a couple of years, you know, he might be hopefully more evolved. But it was this idea that like, you're at different levels of your evolution. People have been here longer. And that actually helped me with my in-laws. It helped me with my own family to just be like, oh, like people are at different levels. Just because they're like older than me, or they're adults, or their parents, doesn't mean that they are more evolved or have done more work or have, you know, opened up their soul in certain levels. And so it just helped me to like kind of realize that people are at different levels. And like we said last week, you know, you have to meet them where they are and not be hating on that if they're a level 1.
Right.
And they're like, you know, cause I have like friends that are like, oh, my brother, like he's so stuck in this religion. And I'm like, babe, like that's where he is right now. It's not your
Where's
job to
that?
change that.
Mhm.
And I think that's maybe the hard part is like sometimes with family, you know, we talk a lot about boundaries too, but it feels like a separation or a punishment. And it's like, oh, well, you should just like be around them because they're family. And it's like, still no.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like if their weird, bad, vibey energy doesn't vibe with yours, it doesn't matter if you came out of the same vagina. Sorry.
You don't have to be best friends. Yeah.
Oh,
I
I
think
mean,
that's really interesting. Like that would be an interesting take to read about the different soul levels. I mean, that bridges off of what we were talking about last week, the meeting people where they're at. You can only meet people as deeply as they've met themselves. Like that feels very tied to their evolvement.
yeah.
Evolvement
And just to like,
evolution.
in addition, right? Yeah. Like, you know, your mother-in-law has her own traumas and her own upbringing and her own experiences. And, you know, your siblings and your brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws and your aunts and uncles. And you just start to realize like everyone's just a hot mess all together doing their best. Right. And it
their
just,
own shit.
yeah. And it softens. And I think what really helps with that is boundaries, right? Like, because then you can just let them be their thing. And if you need to like separate or move away or create boundaries to protect yourself, your family, your kids, whatever, then you do that, you know? But, you know, I think what's hard is when like really challenging relationships come up. Like I love my in-laws. I love my family. You know, we have our things, but then I think there are people that have like even deeper, darker, harder relationships with families. What about that?
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I would say that I personally have not always been in this place with my parents. I think I've talked about it a little bit, doing some ancestral work and figuring out what the generational trauma is that we were like playing out in our relationship with each other helped a ton. Um, and then taking ownership of my own shit really helped because I stopped projecting it onto them. And then once you take full ownership of like yourself, you're only responsible for yourself, your emotions, your experiences. Once you adopt the mindset that you chose them to go through for you, then that also changes the energetics of your relationship with others, like in difficult relationships. Like my mom, I chose her to raise me in the way that she did because that was going to best support me, even if it looks bad from the outside, right? Because good and bad is just conditioning. But once I took ownership of my shit, I could talk to her from a more sovereign place. And I also wasn't attracting her projections anymore because I was taking care of what was mine. And that gave us just such a better relationship. I know that's not the case for everybody. My mom is actually really progressive for her generation.
Go mom, go now.
Super progressive. We love that. Yeah. So she's grown so much as I've grown. And our relationship has really just gotten better and better, but it was not, I would have called it a toxic relationship way back when. We were just playing out these like generational traumas of mothers being jealous of their daughters, women not being seen as equal to the men in the family, like men needing more emotional support and coddling, and the women just kind of were left to fend for themselves, like, but still expected to take care of everybody.
You know,
yeah.
How did you like discover that these were generational things? I mean, just through observation, or did you like tap into like records or anything else?
I have looked in the records about it, but really this was like a couple years ago. I did Natalie Miles' course, the Healing Your Ancestral Trauma. I forget what it's called. It's like Heal Your Ancestor Story or something. It's on her website. It's wonderful. And I think I've linked it before. The Mother Wound. I think I linked it with the Mother Wound, but basically going into this visualization about like the women in my family going up each level of the family tree and like calling their energy forward and asking what they gave me, like why I chose to come through their line, the gifts that they were giving me. And
I have chills on that.
It was really, really insightful, but also probably because I was looking at it from a place of, I chose this. Why did I choose this? Not why did you do this to me?
Oh, I love that. And I want to say that like, it really is that simple. Right? Like if you want to also find out, you know, why you're here, what your lineage is working through, there are programs and meditations and ways to just access that information. And what I like to say is, to me, that just feels like the shamanic work, right? Essentially, like you're grabbing from that world of information, and you have to trust what comes.
Yeah.
And if you just saw a duck on TV and then a duck shows up or whatever, you have to trust that duck was like prompting you to like receive, right? Because you saw a lot of other things on TV, right? So if you're like, I just saw that duck, what is it that you remember about that duck? I don't know why I'm bringing up a duck, but like, that like sticks with you, right? And stays with you. And I think probably because it's like a weird little thing or something like of an anomaly.
That would stick out.
Like, that would stick out. So it's like, you have to kind of trust that when you go to do this, that you're setting the intention to heal, and that is how you draw down this information, right? So even before you go to your family gatherings, this holiday season, like really think about, what is it that I'm working on with, these people, why are these people in my life, and do some deeper understanding and connection to kind of like find out. Cause I think that's interesting. And it does help you understand if you're struggling, especially if you're struggling with families.
And it really helps you heal. Like, I know I wanted to give everybody some tips and tricks for navigating the holidays, because they like holiday gatherings can be absolute chaos. Emotions can run high, especially if you're drinking. Like things can get a little wild. So I'd say, like, if you have super charged family relationships and the energy really is amplified in your big group settings, and maybe you don't, like, maybe the holidays is not the time to have that conversation with your mom about why she didn't love you. Like, maybe that's not the best time to bring it up.
As you're mashing the potatoes.
Right. So why didn't you love me? I think like being just self-aware of how you're feeling is very important, and say, not they're making me feel this way, but I feel blank. Like, this is happening. I feel blank about it. Like, calling out your feelings is really important to becoming more self-aware of like your wounds and your triggers. But if you want to set extra firm boundaries before going into like a group setting, holiday thing, set your intention for how you want to feel afterwards. Because like that is the reality that you will be tapping into. So if you're like nervous or anxious going into like a dinner or whatever, be like, how do I want to feel about this day afterwards? I want to feel calm. I want to feel at peace. Okay, well, what does that look like? What does that feel like? Tap into that feeling before you even go in, and that will be your path through it.
Oh my God. Like, as you're talking, I'm like seeing like all these family dinners, and I'm like sensing I'm like, oh my God, all this information. But it's true. It's like, if I go in and say, like, I do that a lot. I'm like, I'm going to sit next to the best person. We're going to have the best conversation. It's going to be such delicious food. I'm going to, and I like put that vibration on, and then it's like, it does really happen. And when I think about like, I'm not going to name names, but like when I think about like that aunt, and, this is like, in an in-law family, I think about like, you had said, like, we also have in-law family karma, which like trips me out. So then I think about this aunt, and, I actually like really adore her for like, as like kooky and like wonderful as she is. Like, I just really adore that about her. And I feel like I may be one of the only people that really just like adores that about her, like I just see that in her. And I think there's something to that of like, I want to be the kooky aunt, like I want to just be that person who's just like, I am so unapologetically myself.
Yeah.
Here I am, and so that's interesting to like see how that works. And you draw that in.
I think that's important. About this. Like, setting those intentions beforehand also does not mean that everybody else is going to be calm and peaceful.
No,
it does not mean that everything is going to be calm and peaceful. You have zero control over what happens outside of yourself, but you are setting the intention that your experience of the night is going to be like calm and peaceful, not necessarily everybody else's. I feel like that was really important to put a little addendum, a footnote.
Warning, it still may be a shit show.
It still may
you will enjoy it.
You will feel calm afterwards. Yes.
And I like that too, because sometimes I can feel drained after family times.
Mm-hmm.
And especially before I knew how to like put up boundaries, put up energetic protections, take breaks. I think I've said this on the podcast before, but the bathroom is your friend.
Bathroom is your friend. Take
Find
a break.
it, know it, go in there, spend time, do a crossword if you feel like,
yeah,
read a joke book. And then like going for a walk, like taking a break, like that kind of stuff. Like it is so important to like reground and recenter sometimes. You can put on a lot of work, but I find depending on the energy of the room or the triggers or the traumas, you can get thrown off really quick. So keep doing that stuff. But I like that. How do I want to feel afterwards? I want to feel excited and happy and grateful.
Connected. Yeah.
Connected,
like if that's how you want to feel moving through it, then
full.
You can feel that. Yeah. Full.
What they're also kind of saying again as a reminder, and you have to believe it.
You also have to believe it. It can't be just like
you can't just be like nail biting. You have to, because I'm just going to ask them why. Because what they want to point out about that, these are my guides coming in, sorry, they're just like chatty today, is like, they said, let's explain it to them in a simple term. And they give me all this scientific stuff. I'm like, guys, I don't know if that's
not
simple.
simple.
But they're giving me the science stuff, which is basically like opposing forces.
Mm-hmm.
What do opposing forces do? Children?
Oppose.
They cancel each other out, right? Oppose. They do. But when you try to put them together, let's put it that way. Natalie's correct. You have a -1 and a +1, and you put them together, it's 0, right?
Cancel it out. Mm-hmm.
Cancels out. So my guides think you're funny, Natalie. They're like laughing at your jokes. They're like, oh, she's funny. That's why we do a podcast together.
Duh. So
if you like have your intention of like +1, yes, amazing feeling, grateful, connected, but then you're like, but also I don't think it's really going to work, and man, this never works, and my person always gets drunk and it fucks everything up. Oh God, can you just feel the heaviness of that?
Yeah.
So together it just becomes a 0, or a lot of times the -1 might take over.
If you're in that pattern.
Yeah. Right. And you might just like allow it to take over. But same thing with like positivity and vibrations and sound. The more that you vibrate, the more that things around it. So here's the thing. If you come in and your energy is like, bam, 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 I don't know what that looks like to you, but just feel the sound of that for a moment. That's going to ripple out.
Yeah.
I promise you.
It will influence the energy in there.
You might just convert some -1s to 0s or +1s.
Yes. The goal is to neutralize.
What do opposing forces do?
Oppose.
Yes. But that's my science lesson for my guides today. But does that make sense? Is that feeling right? It's like,
I think it makes sense.
And you can feel it. Like when you hold that intention, almost maybe like they say, like do a body scan to make sure that you're not really holding on to anything else. And then they're giving us guidance as to how do you let go of that fear or whatever to just hold on to the positive intention.
Yeah.
Take it away, Natalie.
Oh, is this a question?
Oh, that's for you. How would you guide somebody through? I'm holding both. I just want to hold the positive intention. What do I do with this scary -1 over here?
A lot of the times I feel like it's about permission. So just like saying to yourself out loud or in your head, like, I allow myself to only tap into or only carry a higher frequency, a more positive frequency. Like give yourself permission to just like let it go.
Oh, I love that.
I allow myself to let it go.
Boom. Sometimes that's all we need is permission.
Yeah. And you're the only one that can give it to yourself. Spoiler alert. It's just you.
Spoiler alert, but not really, because we want you to know this.
Jess, what do the little babies want us to know about like toxic family relationships or tough family relationships?
Wow. So just recently in some of the clients that I've worked with, they're kind of like, don't worry, I need this.
It's their karma too.
Yeah. They're like, don't feel bad about it. Don't feel guilty about it. Like, I need this situation for my growth, your growth, our evolution, everybody's evolution. And so that's been really cool. It's like, even if the situation is like hard or traumatic or difficult, the babies are, again, very aware of that and are choosing to come into that experience. even for the saddest thing to say is even for abuse, right? Even for very toxic relationships, even for neglect, right? And I think sometimes too, because again, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, they are the soldiers that are willing to take those risks for us to highlight that we need better for all humanity, right? We need that help and that love and that guidance for all people. And they're willing to be the ones that essentially like show up and take on this work to then make the transformations, right? Like when somebody has been abused or has, gone through a really hard trauma or a difficult thing, to come out the other side, they can go back through and help people, right? I was just talking with Natalie about this when we were like chatting about our human designs, because we're both projectors.
Yeah.
And this little description was like, you're walking along, you see a hole, you fall in, and you come back out and you're like, look what I found when I fell down the hole. And it's like, it's so true. It's like, we're here to kind of like guide people through some of the difficult and challenging situations if we've been through them and we make them out. So don't worry so much about that. But I mean, obviously you want to do everything to like report things and prevent things and help things. And that too is part of the requirement in the process, right? This little baby, this is what they're coming through for me. They might be the activator and you finally speaking up and saying something.
Yeah. They're catalysts,
right? Like you saw it and now you're seeing it repeated in your nieces and nephews or your own children. And it finally gives you the courage and the voice to like say something. So, that's the heavy part of that, but we are all connected. We are all the same energies, just, different parts of it. And what happens to one person happens to all of us. So it's important for us to heal it.
It is important. And just like, I love that you're saying that about the spirit babies coming in with their own contracts and stuff. And they're specifically choosing you to come through for lots of reasons, but you also chose your parents to come through so that you could be the voice for your parents, even if they can't see it, even if they're not at a level of emotional intelligence that could understand that the work that you're doing is healing generational trauma. Like, I mean, they may never, but it's still important to do the work for yourself, because like the more you heal yourself, the more you'll heal the generations to come.
Yeah. And it's hard when you can't get that validation, right? And that love and that,
from your parents when you're doing the work. It's true. It's true. They may not understand. They may not ever.
Ooh, that like feels heavy in my heart, because we do want to be seen by our parents, don't we?
Oh my gosh, I know.
Recognized. We want to be like, I don't know, like they were our everything for a period of our life, right? And I think I've mostly moved past that. Sorry, mom and dad. But like, I definitely remember a time when I really thought about their opinions and what they thought of me and how I could make them proud. And then you kind of realize like, whose life am I living, So I think it's important to like really consider all of that and really consider like, what is yours and what is theirs.
Yeah, especially also when it comes to in-laws, like not just your parents. I feel like some people have really awful experiences with their in-laws. I have not had that experience. I have always had wonderful in-laws.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, I know.
You like checked correctly.
I always had really great in-laws. Yeah.
They call it like the jackpot. Okay. But do you understand like the challenges with like a difficult in-law relationship? Because it's like parents who aren't your parents, but they're being parenty with you.
I feel like I can empathize with that. Being like a projector. I feel like I've gone through it, even though I haven't gone through it, because I can understand the energetics of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the times it's like women with mother-in-laws, there's a lot of turmoil there with women and mother-in-laws. That mother wound is playing out in such a different way.
Yeah.
You are not responsible for your partner's family. I just want to say, like, you are not responsible for your partner's family. You. Yeah. Your partner chose them to come through for like the healings and the teachings that they could learn from them. And you, in your relationship work, ideally are to make each other better people, more evolved souls, to grow and to learn. So I feel like a lot of in-law karma is really you just holding space for your partner to sort through their own karma. Like it's not really yours.
Yes. But it can affect you.
if you're feeling triggered, then they are bringing up your shit.
Yeah.
Then it's a mirror.
Yeah. But I think also like for me, sometimes it's challenging to watch my partner go through that, relationship. And I think that's more what I meant. I mean, but also, but just, just knowing that it's not yours, but that you're holding space for it. I definitely think you should take a lap around the in-law pool before you jump in. You know what I mean? Like,
what does that mean?
I mean, like, get to know the in-laws, get to know what you're working with, get to understand your partner's traumas and triggers and be like, oh, that's where that comes from.
Yeah. And it'll all be played out through your children as well.
Yeah, because they'll be grandparents. And
yep.
I mean, I kind of already know what I'm going to be working with my children. And sometimes I feel a lot of pressure to like get on those lessons now so that I'm prepared and ready. You know what I mean? Like my children are like, better read that book. Better get ready for this. I'm like, okay. I'm gonna be ready. We can do this. We can do this, because I also don't want to pass on things. And I also know that I will. That's the other thing too, you guys. Like, everybody's trying to like be so freaking perfect and like holy and like, pass on nothing.
Fuck up my kids.
Yeah. And like, I don't want to say that you will, but you will.
But you will, and they'll enjoy it.
They'll enjoy it. They'll make something of it. They'll work through it. They'll come back and they'll show you different ways. Like these kids that are coming in, man, they're ready because everybody else is. Like, I think we don't know what to expect, but I think this generation has done enough of the work to be like ready to catch these kids and be like, okay, like the stuff that I see about like gentle parenting right now. I mean, people are still like rolling their eyes at it because they like hate it, but I'm like, eventually they'll learn that like, hey, that's just being a good parent.
That's just being nice.
Just being like respectful that your kid is fucking two, and like is having a hard day.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think is just so interesting, is that I think a lot of what's shifting now too is this conscious parenting movement, and people being more aware of their kids and being more aware of their own traumas as they have kids, that I think we have some hope for the future.
I think we definitely do. I feel like less people are having kids because they're expensive and there's really not systems set up to support families. I think people don't want to sign up for systems that don't support them because they saw how difficult it was to have families when they were growing up. You absorb that like, oh, it's hard. Oh, it sucks. Oh, kids ruin your life.
Yeah.
Like, well, when you have the right support systems in place, they don't have to.
Yeah. I hear that a lot too. Like when people are hesitant to have kids, it's for those very reasons. Right. And that is all conditioning as well.
It's all conditioning.
I also think that like the whole, what is it, like 6 weeks with the abortion in Texas.
Oh, the heartbeat bill.
Yeah. And then all this stuff around, trying to get in paid family leave lately. Like these two things, I've been watching them a lot with the spirit babies, and it's ridiculous. Like, like how, when we look at our families, we look at our family systems, like this is the core of where a lot of this shit starts, is not having this time and energy away. Like I think we should all have a year off with our kids, paid for by whomever wants to pay for that.
I think we talked about it in another episode. Like it's normal in other countries to have like actual time off with your family.
Yeah. And we talked about the COVID babies, like how like they're developing faster. Wow. Because they have their caretakers around all the time. Imagine that.
Weird. What a weird concept. I think also, people really want to feel wronged by their parents. Like you hold on to that. Like, no, I was wronged.
Oh yeah.
And I will tell you, it's okay if you're in that place. Eventually you're going to have to come out of it, because if you don't, you're going to repeat it.
Oh, snap. I was in that place. And let me tell you, it felt really good.
Because you feel validated about your emotions.
So justified. I was like, absolutely, they are the worst.
I have been wronged.
And then I was in that pity party, and it was a rager, actually.
There was a
DJ, there was open bar. It was fun. And then I was like, oh, that's it. Like, there's nothing else here. I'm by myself. Right.
Yeah, and so I really hurting.
Yeah. It was just like, and it was, but I think to your point, it is necessary to throw that party,
To
Only
validate
if
yourself.
it is to validate yourself and then realize that you now want to move on.
Right.
Because you realize that you're like, oh, this is the energy. I don't want to stay in this. This is just a bunch of like anger and rage and pointing fingers and
projecting.
and then and like not taking responsibility for any of it. And then I think you have to do that to then realize like, oh, but if I take responsibility, then I can actually heal it and I can actually move forward and it can actually not trigger me anymore. And that is like the fucking golden ticket.
Yeah. If you feel personally victimized by somebody in your family, there's going to come a point where you have to decide, do I want to be right? Or do I want to have a relationship? Jess.
I've definitely answered that question as I want to be right.
It's I want to be right.
I'm burning so much smoke during this conversation. This is all very intuitively flowing right now, but I like, my spirit guides are like, just keep clearing the air. Just
clear the air.
Just clear the air with smoke. But yeah. And I think that's a good point. And a relationship takes that effort, right? To connect and to understand and to see them and to keep coming back. And I think it's cool that you essentially like repaired your relationship with your parents, right? And really decided to have one with them,
I mean, that's ultimately what it came down to, was like, do I want to have a relationship with them? Even though I feel like all of these things, quote unquote, happened to me under their care, I chose to go through it. And like, yes, I do want, like, family is super important to me when it all comes down to it. Like, I, of course, want a relationship with them.
What does that mean? Family is important to me. People say that a lot, but I never know what that means.
I just really chalk it up to loving the shit out of Christmas. I
almost spit at my tea. Okay, tell me more.
I love Christmas. I love the holidays. Like, yes, a couple days ago, there was a reel that came on Instagram when I was scrolling and I had a Christmas song, started crying just because I was so excited that like, it's this time of year and it's my favorite. And like, this time of year really is all about like getting together with your core family or like the people that you hold closest. Like I've said before, I don't have a huge network of like a bunch of friends or whatever. Like I hold very few people very closely, and like just really leaning into those relationships this time of year. It gives me all the feels.
You're so
I just
cute.
love it.
You already have Christmas music playing.
Yes.
I think like, I would say that family is important, but not more important than me.
That's fair. That's fair.
And I will not sacrifice myself for some family functions.
I didn't know that's what we were talking about. Like, obviously.
No, this is just my interpretation.
I have a ton of boundaries. Yeah.
No, but it's like, I think it's like, I don't know. I'm weird about the holidays. I feel like I like them. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, but I guess I kind of feel like I like family, but maybe because I've always had a small family. I've never been that kind of family where it's like, we all love each other and get together and do the like family stuff. I've kind of admired that in other families and other people who say like their family is important to them. Mm-hmm. Like when I watch dating shows and stuff like that, they're like, family is important to me. And I was like, when they say that on those dating shows, it usually means like they all hang out with their family, like all the time. I don't do that.
Oh. My family doesn't live here. So, but we hang out with Jenna's family all the time. I just love it.
Yeah, no.
Do you think it's maybe because of like, you're an only child, so there's like all of the attention on you? Like, do you feel like there's pressure? Yeah.
Well, yeah. My husband said that. He was like, when he first like met with me, like, and hung out with me and like saw me with my dad and then with my mom, he's like, they like know so much about you and like spend so much time and attention with you. And he's like 105. And he's like, I just have a very different experience. And it's like, yes, I would say, but also I think like, I guess this is what I really want to say in my all honesty is like, just because they're family doesn't mean that I get to hang out with them. Like I might want to choose a friend or somebody else to be with, just because that's what I want to be with. Right. Like they don't get like an extra gold star pass, although they want it and they think they should have it.
A lot of expectation.
Yeah. I like my family, but I don't want to be around them all the time.
That's fair. And you don't have to.
Yeah. I like my own individual life and I like my alone time. It's really surprised me. This has come more as I've learned more about myself and actually listened to myself. I would say when I was younger and growing up, I did a lot of this stuff. But if I really ask myself, do I want to do that kind of family stuff? I don't.
Yeah. And that's okay. That is perfectly fine.
But I feel like people who like their families are like, what?
Gemini.
I don't know. I feel like Geminis. I feel like they like have a lot of fun. Like when I see people who like their families and like hang out with their families and like do stuff with their families, I'm like, that's cool. That's sweet. Maybe if I had siblings, I don't know.
I think it probably would be different if you had siblings. There's just like a lot of expectation and weight put like solely on your shoulders as an only child, maybe.
Yeah. And I think right now, maybe this is my next question is like right now, when my mom and I hang out, it's kind of like we're friends. Maybe there's still like a mother-daughter dynamic there, but it's not as strong. And I feel like when I hang out with people's families, like when I hang out with my husband's families, everybody's in their roles.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's what's kind of weird too. It's like, but I'm a grown ass adult. And now that I'm in my mother's house, you're like telling me to do things as if I'm a kid. I was like, no.
I think it really boils down to boundary stress.
Okay. I need help with boundaries. Oh my God. Good Lord. God, I feel like I keep getting like a C+ on boundaries.
You're doing a great job. You're exactly where you're supposed to be.
How would boundaries help with that, do you think?
Well, first you need to decide what expectations are making you bitter that you feel like you have to meet. Because I feel like there's some expectation there that you're like, no, I get to choose when, I get to choose how, I get to like, it feels like a violation of boundaries somehow for you with your family.
Like family functions kind of have always been expectations for me.
Well, because you're a people pleaser, because you grew up with that, like trying to make everybody happy and accommodate everybody. And like now that you're older, you're like, fuck that.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I just don't want to do that anymore. And I don't have a new way yet to relate.
Of doing it. Yes. Oh, yeah. Jess, that's what it is. It's like it doesn't feel good to fall back into those roles. So
welcome to my session with Natalie.
Yes, you have to create your own way moving forward. You don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, because I do want to have that. I want my family to be like that. I want my family to be like hanging out and being cool and being, fun in that sense. But I also don't want there to be the level and amount of obligations and expectations that both my family and my in-law family have. It's a lot.
Only obligations and expectations if you believe there are, Jess. Like,
oh, okay.
They don't exist if you don't feed into them.
Okay, I'm not going to feed those wolves.
Don't.
There are no expectations and no obligations.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that makes me feel really crazy in my heart.
I love it.
My soul's like, that's a lie.
Jess.
My conditioning is like, no, you will die. Do not believe that. It just feels like it doesn't feel real yet. It doesn't feel comfortable yet.
I know. You have to believe it. And be like, you haven't seen it. So it's tough to believe.
So for people like me who might be listening, what is the advice for us? How do we work through that? What do we do?
I think you just have to recognize in your own family, like, of all, decide if you want the kind of family that means the most to you and you want to be around them and you want that kind of a family experience. Decide if that's something you want first. If it is, look at what's holding you back from it. Look at the old ways of relating that you don't want to carry into the new way you're going to relate with them. It's a process. It really is a process. Like, decide if this is something you want, if you want family to mean a lot to you. okay, what was stopping it from meaning a lot to you? And then choose to move forward differently. In your perfect world, what does hanging out with your mom feel like? And like lean into that intention before going into family gatherings.
I love that. And Natalie was like, I fucking love Christmas, so I want some family.
I fucking love, but I hate board games, and like Jenna's family really likes to play board games. So like that's a boundary I set. I love
what do you do when you just sit there?
I like to watch, I like to talk, but I do not like to play board games. And I think Jenna's family has had a hard time with me setting that boundary.
Do they like kind of go like, come on, Natalie?
They
like,
may or may not have had a family meeting about how I don't participate. But like, that's not my stuff. Like, I don't feel triggered by that because I get to decide what I want to engage in. That's not my stuff. Like, they have a lot of trauma in their family line with manipulation. And like, you should go to this, you should do this. It's going to make everybody else feel comfortable. And like, I am just not somebody who cares about making you feel comfortable. So like, I will go and I will sit there and talk with you. But if that's a boundary I'm setting, they don't really push up against it because I'm pretty firm about it.
I love that because I've definitely played my share of board games that
I do not like board games. I did not grow up playing. I don't like them.
I'm like more curious why you don't like board games now. Are they boring?
Okay. So like, my version of competition is aggressive, and I don't want to be the aggressor.
Flipping the board game.
Yeah.
You want to keep your family liking you.
I just don't want to care that much about winning.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're put in a like caring about winning, it's like a all or nothing, black or white, life or death.
Historically, that's a story I told myself. I only played team sports like in 6th grade, right? I got benched for being too aggressive.
Whoa. And what, I mean, you're kicking nuns in kindergarten. So
right. Obviously I have a pattern.
We're just seeing this pattern here of board games and being benched. Okay. I like that. I guess I would have to hold firmer and stronger boundaries, and to really practice that a bit more, because there's a lot of things that I no longer want to do. How do you balance that with like politeness, right? And like holidays and like being a guest, right? And I feel like board games is like one of those, like it's after dinner, we're all hanging out if you want to play or not. But I will say too, that like, that also happens with my in-laws. They love a good game, and sometimes I'm in for it and sometimes I'm not. My husband usually like Jets.
Yeah.
He does not like him.
Not
just
about
like,
it.
bye. They're like, where's dad? And I always cover for him. I'm like, I don't know. Let's just go ahead and start.
Yeah,
let's just
go
start.
ahead.
What about like your, what are they called? Brothers-in-laws and sister-in-laws.
What about them? My brother-in-laws.
Do we also have karmic relationships with them at all? Or again, is it still related to your partner?
I think a lot of it is mostly related to your partner, but again, like if any situation you feel triggered by something someone else does or says, then that's also your work.
What about if your partner has a challenge with their family? Like, how do you support them in that? Right? Like,
validate their feelings.
Yeah.
Validate their experience. Like, yes, it's okay to feel that way.
Yeah.
And then maybe just offer them, if they're ready for it, the opportunity to look at it from a place of, why do you think you chose this? Like, what are you learning? What are they showing to you? Like, you can offer your partner a safe space for them to express their emotions, and then an outside perspective, like a higher perspective of it, because you don't have any personal investment in it. Or, I mean, you might, but
I was like, I do.
I mean, you might, but that's your work. That's also your work.
You know, uninvest.
Yeah.
Ooh, I mean, just so many things are coming up for me.
Just, I love it.
So many things.
What else can we tell them about tough family relationships? Like, what have we not talked about?
I know. I was looking at our little notes, and I'm trying to think of, like, I guess I haven't really seen much of, the families because of the pandemic, travel and stuff like that. I haven't done a lot of interactions, but I think maybe the other thing to kind of talk about is like when you just don't go, right? Like there are times when might just make your boundary is that you don't see this person, or that you've, ended a relationship with a parent. And I think sometimes the holidays can bring that up too. It just kind of reminds you, or this might be a time when those like narcissistic parents like reach out or try to do their things and everything. So one, I'm just sending everybody a lot of love if that is your experience, but also just that sometimes that is part of it, is part of your journey might be to draw boundaries so firm that it closes or ends a relationship, and I think that's hard because it's family, right? But there's like this kind of obsession with family.
There's a lot of expectation and conditioning around family, and like, just do it. You should, we should.
Why?
Don't shit all over yourself. I think it's just, it's all conditioning to like making other people feel more comfortable. Like you're somehow responsible for other people's feelings. Like you are not. You get to decide if you like to be around your family or not, and set that boundary. I like the way that Glennon Doyle describes it. I don't know if, I think it might be in her book Untamed. I read that, fucking loved it. But she says like the way that they approach like their in-laws who are not maybe accepting of her lifestyle, because she's with Abby Wambach, the soccer player. She's a late in life lesbian. We love that for her. She's like, you get to decide who you let on your island. Ooh. Your family is on your island, right? Your kids, your dogs, whatever, your partner, you and your partner get to decide who gets to come to that island.
Yeah.
There is no expectation. You can take the bridge away. If like, they're not willing to be nice or hospitable or whatever, like you get to decide who you let in your house, who you let on your island.
Yeah. I think that takes a certain level of boundaries.
It's boundaries, Jess.
What I'm learning today is, but also just like, I don't know, just that the ability to kind of like hold or enforce the boundaries comes from that deeper place of like self-love, right? And like knowing that this is the life that you want, and this is the experience that you want, and that each experience, like if you go to a bad family interaction, that can last weeks or days afterwards to clear the energy and stuff like that. So it's important to like think about your energy and what you really want. And, I think sometimes family is worth maybe like holding on or doing a deeper work with relationship, because there's so much other stuff in there, right? Like you were born into that family line, that lineage for reasons. There are things in there to work with. So I think maybe that's why there's that cultural thing of like family, kind of that like energetic reminder of like, but you got a lot of work right here.
Yeah. And you're also
plenty
like,
of things.
You're setting those boundaries to teach people how to treat you in a new way. And like, that's not always easy for other people to swallow. You just have to be firm in your boundaries. Eventually they might come around and relate to you in the way that you have set those boundaries, that they're able to relate with you, or they might not.
It's okay to also just say verbally boundaries.
It is.
Because sometimes, I don't know, it's just like that is like a verbal reminder for me of just
boundaries,
having to set them. You guys, I'm getting better, but I'm still a long way to go.
You're doing great. I do want to say before we like wrap this up, because I don't know how long we've been talking.
Me either.
If you're going to have alcohol, definitely set that intention beforehand. Set those boundaries. Jess likes to say protections up when you have alcohol involved. Yeah. Just do it. Just if you know you're going to be drinking, be like, all right, I really need to lean into this intention of how I want this night to end for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like consider not drinking, right? Or consider, like different options if that doesn't like help the mix. Try the intention plus alcohol, try intention without alcohol, like mix it up this holiday season. Put some crystals in your bra, take a bathroom break, like let us know.
Yeah, let us know how it goes for you. We're really excited. And is this I think this is we're taking a week break for Thanksgiving. So we
Wait,
will not
alright.
have an episode airing the week of Thanksgiving.
Wait, why are we taking a break? Because Natalie is spending time with her family.
My best friend is getting married, Jess.
And her best friend's getting
I'm
married.
going to Texas,
We're
for
just
a
kidding.
weekend. But also we're going to spend some time with our families, with our partners. So we're going to take a week off. So you will not have an episode this next week, but the week after we are coming back, coming in hot, and then we're going to set up that live Q&A.
We're coming in hot. We'll come back with all the stories.
Can't wait. Oh yeah. I love that we're doing a live Q&A after this airs and after Thanksgiving, because I feel like people might have some stuff to share.
If I will empathize with you in your boundary quests, my loves.
It's going to be great. You can do it. Put boundaries around your island.
That's right.
Okay. And we will see you guys in a couple weeks. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Bye.